Big round of applause for getting up so early on Saturday morning. Also a huge applause. And you want to have at least 4 officers trained in order to get your DCP point, also for the health of your club, at least 4 officers. Also, if your club gets 4 officers trained by the end of this training session, your president gets to go to the fall conference for free. And if all 7 of your officers get trained, so does your VPE. So incoming presidents and incoming VPEs, you have a lot of incentive now to get all of your officers trained. I will be contacting you and your current officers throughout the next couple months to remind you when things are happening and to remind you if you haven't gotten your 4 done. Please try to encourage your group. All right, venue-related announcements. The bathrooms right across the way. There's also bathrooms 2 floors down. So if you're down in the classrooms and you need to use the restroom, you can go downstairs as well, or if these are full. Also, make sure you all have your handouts that were over there. If you don't, it's okay. I'll pass them out in a minute. But check that. Oh, parking. First, I want to apologize about parking. I'm sorry. If I had any control over it whatsoever, I would have made it a lot easier for you all. If you had any trouble with parking, please, again, my apologies and the apologies of the team. Please make sure that you are parked in the parking structure or just outside the structure upstairs. Anyone parked down here, you will either get ticketed or towed unless you have a handicap placard. Okay, so make sure upstairs. Also make sure, like Janet or Linda said, make sure that you have your parking permit in your car that's visible for them. They're going to go around and check. Okay? And the last question.
Oh, for those who didn't know, it takes only coins or a credit card. You don't go with a handful of bills like I tried.
For those who didn't hear that, quarters or credit card is all that the machine will take. And the machine is right by the main entrance of the driveway when you pull into the big parking lot up there. It's right in front. My last venue announcement is classrooms. The classrooms are just downstairs. You go out this door and make a right. So after we finish with our training this morning, and you want to do one of the workshops, you're going to go out there, make a right, and the stairs are around through the double doors on the right. There should be some signs. And all 5 of the classrooms are downstairs. This is A, and B through E are downstairs. Okay? That's it from my boring announcements. And off to our LGM, who's going to come up and have some more district announcements that are going to be far more interesting than mine. Please give me please help me give her a big warm welcome.
Can you hear me? Yes. Awesome. I don't know, that microphone is tripping me up today. Anyway, my focus is as the incoming LGE. Look at me, I'm jumping the gun already. LGM, Lieutenant Governor of Marketing. My goal is for right now, I want you to get excited and I want you to do the 1+1 membership. Who knows what that is? Who wants to tell me what the 1+1 is? Mr. Oaks. Tell us what the 1+1 membership is. Very quickly, please, very quickly.
Get a member.
Get a member, yes. Everyone. All of us have at least one friend, colleague, or member that is 18 or over that can speak English, right? And can communicate and probably needs to improve his or her communication and leadership skills. Bring him the Toastmasters. You also get an incentive from the international president. You get a really nifty t-shirt, and you get recognition. Plus, we're going to help Linda, this team, this district, us, become select distinguished. Don't you owe it to yourselves? Don't you owe it to your friends, your family? Let's do it. That is my main drive for now. I want at least everyone, all of us, me too. Let's get at least one member more in our clubs and really make this district rock and roll. And I will have more updates later on, but my focus is to just finish this year off. So I'm good to go. I'm going to call, do I need to call you back up, Madam?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, I'm calling you up, Madam Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training.
What did you say, Janet, that we're going to make it a rock and roll district? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I love that. I hope that you consider that for your tagline when 2 years from now when you're district governor. Rock and roll district! I like that. Okay, we're going to move on to the officer training, and before I do, I just wanted to let you know that this training is a group training. No matter what position that you're in right now or going into this year, you get credit for training by staying and sitting here and not moving for an hour. So you get credit. I'm going to go over the basics of all of the officer positions, just really rough around the edges, give you an idea of how to work together as a team. And then after this session, we will have breakouts downstairs, workshops, that you can go find out all the nitty-gritty details of your particular position. I also wanted to let you know that if you are in multiple positions, or in multiple clubs with multiple positions, that you get credit for all of the positions by doing this one training. So you don't have to go to multiple trainings, just this one will cover it. But if you are doing multiple positions in multiple clubs, make sure that on the sign-in sheet that you indicated that. Because when I go in to put in your name's not there. It just says Toastmasters President or LA3 Treasurer. That's all it tells me. So I don't know if you are an officer in any other club. So you have to let me know which officers you're if you forgot, you can always email me, okay? Okay. So how many of you have heard of the sport called hockey? Yeah, are you familiar with it? There's this like black circle thing that they skate around on ice. Well, it's the one sport that I like. It's hockey. But this, I'm going to give you a description of how I see hockey and how it relates to Toastmasters. For those of you who know hockey a little bit, you may know that it's a very high-speed, kind of constantly moving sport. And the team members that are out there, there's 7 team members out there on the ice at any given time. There's the goalie and six teammates. And they have to constantly know, hey, 7 members on the ice, 7 members on the executive council. Hey, that's another term. So when they're on the ice, they have to constantly know where each other is in order to know where to send the puck. And they have to work together as a team. Every single person on the ice is important, every single moment of the game. They're always included. And in fact, they recognize so much that every team member is important that if somebody scores a goal in hockey, not only do they recognize the person who actually scored the goal, but all the assists, anybody who assisted him to get the puck in. And then, of course, they recognize the goalie constantly. And every time they make a goal, the entire team high-fives each other. Even the team that was sitting actually in the bench during the goal, they still high-five each other because all 20 members or more of the team are constantly helping each other. They recognize teamwork. And that's how I see our executive committee. We, on a team in our clubs, we're working together. And every time we make a success, we're making it together. And we're also working together with our entire club as a team. So today, as I present to you all of the different officer positions and the basics of it, the reason why these are so important is because these responsibilities help you work as a team with your other members. We work together, okay? Now, if you don't like hockey, if you don't like hockey, think of another sport. It's basically the same thing. Football, basketball, whatever. So, okay, let's move on. I'm going to go into, before I go into the different positions, what I'd like you to do is, those of you who are going to be officers this year, take a minute. Pick one of your more challenging, if you have more than one of your more challenging positions, and take a minute to think about what it is you'd like to achieve this year. And maybe even write it down on your paper if you like to write things down. Think about what is one major goal or something you'd like to achieve by the end of this year as your term in your position. Got a good idea? Okay. The reason why I ask this question is because a lot of times we get mired in the details of our job. We have to file this, and we have to check off this list, and we have to do all this. But we really need to be able to see the big picture of the whole year together. So having a long-term goal lets us do that. So we have the details, and we also have our long-term goal. It also gives us something to think about for the future and not just get stuck in the present. So as we're going through today, going through our different roles, think about your long-term goal. And I'm going to start with what Toastmasters International considers to be the 7th ranking officer. You guys know that Toastmasters International ranks the officers in position level. President is first, VP is second, down all the way to sergeant and officer 7. Do you know why they rank them that way? Just out of curiosity.
Secession.
Yeah. So if your president, gets kidnapped by pirates in Somalia, then your vice president then would take over. Your VPE then gets shipped off to some other place, and so on and so forth. So in order for Sergeant at Arms to take over, everybody else has to. But that's, yeah. Thank God, so scary. So we're going to start with the 7th ranking officer, which is Sergeant at Arms. How many of you in here are going to be Sergeant at Arms this incoming year? Raise your hand. All right, great, thank you. How many of you have been Sergeant at Arms before? How many of you have seen your room set up and ready to go? All right, so we all have some relationship to Sergeant at Arms, so you're all familiar with it. So what is the I already gave away the answer. What is the one of the primary goals and responsibilities of a Sergeant at Arms? Is to set up the room. Exactly. Now, why is it important that the Sergeant at Arms sets up the room? Place to sit. That's important. Got a place to sit. Absolutely. The reason why it's so important that the Sergeant at Arms sets up the room is so that when the rest of the team and the EC and the rest of the members come in to a meeting, they can sit down and do their meeting. They don't have to shuffle around and figure out where everything is. They don't have to be in the middle of chaos. They come into a neat, organized room, sit down, ready to work. That's the Sergeant at Arms' main responsibility, is to make it easy for the rest of the team and the rest of the group in order to have the meeting. Another responsibility of the Sergeant at Arms is the front person for the club. So the Sergeant at Arms has the room ready, and after the room is ready to go and everyone's walking in, it's happy. The Sergeant at Arms is the first woman at the door, greeting the members and guests as they come in, but especially the guests. Okay? So the Sergeant at Arms is the front person greeting all the guests, but even though Sergeant at Arms is responsible for being the front person greeting all the guests, who else is responsible for greeting guests? Everybody, every officer. It would be great if every single club member did too. Not all at the same time, though. No mobbing the new guests. One at a time. The Sergeant at Arms will introduce themselves to the guests and then pass them on to another officer who will pass the person on to another officer. And by the end of the meeting, ideally, that guest has met every single officer who's present, as well as some other members. So that guest greeting part of it. And the last in the Sergeant at Arms is responsible for, it requires strong muscles and a big trunk in your car. Schlepping. Sergeant at Arms actually is schlepping at arms. Sergeant at Arms is schleps all around the materials, or if you're lucky enough to have a venue where you can keep the materials in a closet or locked up, then the Sergeant at Arms is responsible for maintaining all the materials that are on site. But the Sergeant at Arms is responsible for all the materials, all of the little sheets that you wrote on, all the ribbons, all of the functionary report forms, all those things are Sergeant at Arms. That's the main responsibilities of the Sergeant at Arms. Now, as I go through all these different roles, I'm going to go very quickly because we only have an hour to get through everything. If you have questions, write down your questions. If we have a little bit of time at the end, I might ask for questions, but I may not. And if you still have a question, there will be the sessions downstairs where you can get more answers. And then also, at the end of the day, if you still don't have your questions answered, there will be a session at the very last 3:30 slot for a Q&A for officers. Okay, so that's available. And plus, you are also welcome to email or call me with your questions at any time as well, or stop me in the hallway here. Okay? 6th ranking officer is the treasurer. What is a treasurer responsible for? Money! That's right, responsible for money. The end, okay, next. No, just kidding. The treasurer has to keep account of records and report regularly to the executive committee. So the treasurer has all of the bank account information and makes sure that's all in order, and then lets the executive committee know what's going on, if there's anything going on with the bank account, what kind of funds are in and out, where they're at for funding. Also, what's important for the treasurer to do twice a year?
Dues.
Twice a year. Dues, yes, dues. Taxes is once a year, thank goodness. Once a year. But dues, the treasurer is responsible for collecting dues twice a year. Now, collecting dues is very important because Toastmasters International wants to make sure that your people and your club are actually paying their dues. And one of the requirements on the DCP, which we'll talk about later, is paying your dues on time. Now, does anyone know how many people have to pay their dues in order to be considered being paid on time? 6. 6 people. That's it. You want everyone in your club to pay their dues, right? Yes. But TI is only interested for the first 6 in order to count for the DCP. They're interested in all of your club members renewing for the overall membership, but for that point of getting credit for the DCP, 6 is the magic number. So if you're a treasurer, you know one, then you want to make sure that the treasurer gets in those first 6 as soon as they have their hot little hands on that hot little checks, stack of checks. You get that in so that they get credit for it, okay? And I forgot to ask, how many of you in here are going to be treasurer this year? Yeah, all right. How many of you have been treasurer in the past? You. It's not a very popular position. Me, I was treasurer. And how many of you have paid your dues before? Okay. Not everybody's hand went up. I'm kind of curious about that. All right. So twice a year is to pay your dues. And part of the treasurer's responsibility is to make sure that everyone knows they're supposed to pay their dues and not just wait. Email everybody and remind them and ask for dues during the meeting. All right, last thing that the treasurer is required to do is already called out once a year, May 15th, is taxes. Well, specifically, not all the taxes, just one specific form, which is, what number is that on treasurers who've been reading for? 199N is the tax form treasurers need to file by May 15th. That's what Linda was talking about a minute ago, for those of you who are still treasurer and haven't done that yet, by the way. And those who are incoming, you don't have to worry about it until May 15th. Oh, well, a little bit before that, 2014. You do have to worry about it maybe April 15th or May 15th. But right now, you can't file it now. Last year, our incoming treasurer was ready to file as soon as she's July 1st. I'm going to file that 199N. Well, you have to finish off 2013 first before you can file the 199N. And also, Toastmasters International will send that to you. Okay. So they will let you know how to do that. And if you have more questions about technical, how to run your bank account, how to do dues, how to do the 199N, we do have a treasurer session downstairs after this, so you can go ask your questions, and Karen Hudson will give you all the nitty-gritty details, more than you possibly ever thought you wanted to know about it. All right. Next up, 5th ranking officer is the, anyone know?
Secretary.
Secretary, that's right. Who here is going to be secretary this year? Raise your hand. Nice try. Who was secretary or has been in the past? Raise your hand. Yay. How many of you have seen your secretary in your club frantically writing notes? Or actually, I should ask, how many of you have had to ask your secretary, what speech did I do? I forgot. Yeah. So I already gave away the answer, but what is the secretary primarily responsible for? Taking notes and minutes. So the secretary is responsible for taking minutes at your executive council meetings, as well as notes if your club does them. It's highly recommended. They're not required, but it's highly recommended notes during the regular membership meetings. So EC meetings, you are required to have minutes at the EC meetings, and at the membership meeting, notes are preferable, not required, but they're really helpful. So if somebody has forgot what they were going to do, what they did in their speeches, or if you want to know who was there, a name of a map, a name of a guest, etc. That's a good idea. Secretary is also the keeper of club history. So secretary also could be a schlepper. Yes, schlepper secretary. Because depending on how much history your club has, it might be a very big box. Some boxes are small, some boxes are big. So the secretary is the keeper of all the history that your club has, including the charter of your club, the constitution, any other paperwork that you've had filed, etc. Old 199Ns, etc. It's all that. Membership forms. And the last thing that secretaries actually are officially responsible for, I didn't know this until I did research for this session, is secretaries are responsible for filing the new or reporting the new officers to Toastmasters International. Did you know that? Did anyone know that? You knew that back there. Okay. So officially, the secretaries are the ones who are supposed to report today, tomorrow, the next couple days if you haven't done it yet, all your new officers coming in. So the current sitting secretary right now would be the one who would be responsible for that. Now, Toastmasters International allows anyone to do it. Any officer who has access to your club portion on the website can file that information, but officially it is the secretary's duty. So if the secretary doesn't actually do it themselves, they are responsible to make sure it happens. So there you go. up, the fourth ranking officer is the VP of Public Relations. How many of you are going to be the VPPR this year? Raise your hand. All right. How many have been the VPPR before? All right, great, excellent. How many of you know what the VPPR does? Yeah, that's one of those roles in our district, at least, where I think there's some confusion, and there's some not sure, and there's some, well, VPPR, yeah, we have one, I'm not sure, does he do a job? I'm not sure. Some clubs are very, very good with their VPPRs, but a lot of the clubs visits, and I know my own personal clubs that I have belonged to in the past, VPPR, yeah, I think he's Joe. Maybe. But you know what, that's changing. That's changing because now we understand what it is, and I want to encourage all of the new incoming VPPRs to really, really know that you are important. You are very, very, very important to your clubs. You know why? Because the VPPR, you are the connection between your club and the rest of the world. You're the one who brings in the guests to make sure that you have people coming in regularly to visit your club. Now, if you're an open club or community club, then you are a connection to the entire world. And if you are a corporate club, the VPPR is a connection to the other employees in your company. Okay? So the VPPR, you are very, very important because you you are the main source, the main way that guests come in through the doors. So the VPPR is responsible for connecting to the outside world. And what are some of the ways that the VPPR can do that? Anyone want to shout out?
Twitter.
Website.
YouTube.
Open houses. Twitter. Facebook.
YouTube.
Press releases.
Newsletter.
What was it?
Blogging.
Blogs. Yes. Meetup.org, yeah. So VPPR is responsible for all of that. See, so it's a big job. It's not just a job where you sit in the basement and what do I do? It is actually, you are out there. You are the face of the club to the outside world. All right, so you are very, very important, VPPRs. Also, VPPRs, if your club has a newsletter, that's who does it, is the VPPR, ideally. And a lot of clubs has that responsibility. It's shuffled off to somebody who just wants to do it. But ideally, the VPPR is the one who would do the newsletter. And the newsletter is for both your members and your guests and anybody else in the outside world who wants to know about your club. So it's all those things. So it's to help your members feel appreciated for what they've done in your club, for your guests to understand what your club does and to know more about it, and for the outside world to see what you're doing. And lastly, here's another thing I bet most of you do not know. The third responsibility that I'm going to go over today at the VPPR is something brand new, relatively, brand management. The VPPR is responsible for the branding of your club. Does anyone not know what branding means in Toastmasters?
Rodeo.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'll explain. So if you look at your program, this is all branded. The banner on the top is a branded banner. All the fonts are branded. Facebook and Twitter are not. On the back, there's a Toastmasters little symbol, and all the fonts are branded. So this is what one of the things the VPPR is responsible for in your club, to make sure that your agenda is branded, any newsletter, or anything that goes out, the PR, the website, everything is branded according to Toastmasters International. Now, if you have any questions about that, there is a whole entire web page on Toastmasters International website that's dedicated to branding. Lots and lots of information on that, as well as this breakout session a little bit later. Very quick question, yeah.
Everybody can be their own PR person just by checking in Glendale Community College and say you're at Toastmasters Office of Training.
Thank you! Yes, sir! You are VPPR? Oh, your club should have VPPR. So he's just reminding you that on the agenda, it says at the bottom here, go to Facebook and check in Glendale Community College.
You can do it on your own page as well.
You can do it on your own page, yep. Twitter, let them know hashtag D52TLI, hashtag. Does anyone not know what a hashtag is? Okay, no, that's okay. If you know what it is, hashtag. It's a Twitter thing. It's a Twitter thing. It's a tweet thing. Hashtag. Nobody else in the entire world will know what you're talking about. D52TLI, but you will, and all your friends will. But nobody else will. For now. For one day. All right. Next up is the VP membership. How many of you are going to be VP membership this year? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you have been a VP membership before? Okay. How many of you were ever a guest once to a club? You? Okay. Now again, I'm baffled that not everyone raised their hand. Right? Now, how did you get into the club if you were a guest first and grandfathered in? So the VP membership, the main responsibility is guest conversion to member. Guest to member conversion. That is VPM. Guest to member conversion. So when the guest walks in the door, it's up to you to make that person a member. By not tackling them and forcing them to sign the paper, by being nice and explaining why the club's awesome, in any way that you can. So the VPM's responsibility is to keep in touch with the guests, both in the club meeting itself and outside of the club meeting, to remind them of meetings coming up, to ask them how they're doing, how they like the meeting, keeping in one-on-one. VPM's a lot of one-on-one connection. Each person, each guest that comes in, the VPM is a one-on-one. So VPPR is out there, and VPM is one-on-one. And they work together as a team to go from out into the world, into a guest, into a member. Let's do it together. Also, the VPM is responsible for the guest packets. Every club should have a little something to give to guests when they walk in the door. Guests love holding on to stuff. When you walked in today, the first thing you did was, where's the paper I have to have? Right. Where's my paper? Guests want to have papers with information, and they want to see something that will tell them what the club's about. They want to have a little packet. So VPM is responsible for that pieces of information that the guests get when they walk in the door. Also, the VPM is responsible for helping the guests fill out the paperwork for their membership. So the VPM will sit down with the guest, help them fill it out. In the training session we did on Wednesday, it was recommended having a lot of your paperwork pre-filled out if you can. Club number, all of your club dues, all that pre-filled out as much as you can. So when you sit down with the guest and fill it out, it's easy. And then once you're done, once the VPM's done with the guest, then they hand the membership form and the check over to the treasurer. But the VPM is with the guest all the way through to that point. All right? Okay. Next up is the VPE. Who is going to be VPE coming in this year? Okay. A lot of VPEs, right? Who has been a VPE before? All right. And who has ever been scheduled for a speech? Again, not everybody's raising their hand. It's backwards. But you're all Toastmasters, right? Make sure. Right. So the VPE's responsibility is the program, agenda. Everybody. Agenda, right. So the VPE's responsibility is to make sure the agenda happens and that people get on the agenda.
Sounds so conspiratorial.
So what?
So conspiratorial.
I know, it's a conspiracy to get you speaking. The speaking conspiracy.
I'm pursuing an agenda.
So, oh yes. So the VPE, you're responsible for the agenda. Now, how you do the agenda is up to you, but what you want to achieve is that everybody in your club is reaching their goals, moving towards their goals. Right? And that's another one of the responsibilities of the VPE, is to know everybody in the club, to know their goals, and to help them achieve their goals. Whether that be speaking goals, or whether that be educational goals, maybe they just are nervous and want to feel more comfortable up in front of the group. Whatever their goals are, the VPE's responsibility is to help them try to achieve it. And the way to do that is to schedule them on the schedule. Put them in speaking slots. So if you're in a club that asks for volunteers only, and you're VPE, I highly recommend that you also help people who don't volunteer get on the schedule. The best way I've seen it done is to schedule ahead of time. For the VPE to look at what's been done and to schedule ahead of time so that everyone gets a fair chance. And then when somebody wants to do something, to put them in where they want to be. But for the most part, schedule ahead. And if you don't, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in detail downstairs at the VPE session, about how to do that. But your responsibility is to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. Everyone gets a chance to do the different functions in the club. We don't have the same person doing timer week after week after week. We don't have the same 4 people evaluating every time. Does that ever happen in your club? We have the same 4 or 5 people who are always evaluating. You, VPE, are responsible for training new evaluators to make sure that they know how to do the job. Okay? All those things are VPE. And also, the VPE, you know, is also officially responsible for the contests in your club. I did not know that. I learned so much studying the book. But no, you guys, have you seen this book? I've read it from cover to cover. I mean, I've looked at it many, many times, flipping through and trying to get reference, but I actually read it cover to cover so that I would actually have some sort of authority when I'm talking to you today. And there's a lot in here, so I really recommend you read it from beginning to end. I mean, they actually tell you how to do your job. It's pretty cool. If you haven't received that book already, your outgoing president should get it. So ask your outgoing president for your copy. Okay. All right, so the VPE is responsible for the contests. How many of you have contests in your club? Raise your hand. Again, I want to see everybody's hand. Okay. If you don't have contests in your club, I highly recommend it. Even if your club's small. It's something a little different, challenges you, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I don't know, how many of you have been in a contest before? Can you attest? Yes. Can you nod your head? Can you attest that being in a contest is a great challenge and it's fun to do? Yeah, it's great. So it provides your club an opportunity and your members an opportunity to do something different and challenging. So I highly recommend it. Now VPE, if you're responsible for the contest, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the one who puts it on. You just have to make sure it happens. You can have a contest chair for your club. In fact, one of the requirements in the CL manual is to chair a club contest. So as a VPE, you want to find somebody who needs to finish their CL manual and have them be one of the chairs, or 2 chairs, or 3 chairs for the contest to help them fill their CL manual. And you would just help them with the contest to be there as a consultant. And lastly, the VPE, you're responsible for the mentor program. Mentoring. So the mentoring program, you're all familiar with it for your clubs. When a guest comes in, they're assigned a mentor or they ask for a mentor in the club. And the mentor helps them through the first 6 or so speeches, or as long as they want to be a mentor to them. And being a mentor is helpful for the guest, but it's also helpful for who else? The mentor themselves. Because learning how to mentor somebody, is it easy to mentor somebody? Just something you just know how to do? It takes practice and it takes time and guidance. So you're there to help both the guest and the mentor. And also consider this. Consider having mentors even for your experienced members. Because even experienced members want to get feedback and have somebody to mentor them. And consider this challenge too. Somebody who's been around a really long time, who knows their stuff, have somebody relatively new mentor them. To give them feedback as kind of a newbie and see how the mentee does with that, the mentor. So have everybody in your club have a mentor, and the VPE is responsible for that. All right, the last officer position is a president. Who here is going to be president this year? I want to see leadership arms. Leadership arms. That's right, leadership arms, very good. Okay, who's been president before? Leadership arms. Great, we have a lot of leaders in here. All right, who has seen that person in front of the room talk at the beginning of the meeting? Blah, 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 membership vision, blah, blah, blah. And introduce the Toastmaster. Now the president has a very important duty, obviously. What would you say is the main duty or main responsibility of the president?
Delegate.
Cheerleader. Overseer cheerleader.
Be present.
Be present.
Control of the meeting.
Control the meeting. All right. All of that kind of falls under the giant word of vision. Vision. The president is responsible for the vision of the club. The president is the one who sets the tone, is the one who provides the culture of the club. Culture club. So the president is responsible for making sure that everyone gets their job done and for presiding at the meetings and doing all these jobs, but basically it's under the giant auspice of the vision. Okay. What do you see your club doing if you want to be President's Distinguished? Do you want your club to be welcoming and warm? Do you want your club to have everybody work together as a team? Do you see your group as a team? Or do you see it more of a, how do you see yourself as a president? This will affect every aspect of your club, is how you approach your presidency. So the vision is #1 important priority. Technically, the president is also responsible for presiding over the executive committee meetings. Being the one to make sure the executive committee meetings don't last 3 hours. All right. Yes, it's not a joke, actually. That's actually happening. I'm saying sadly. So one of the things the president is responsible for is making sure the meetings are on time. Okay, the executive committee meetings are on time, and that they stay on agenda. They're also responsible for opening the club meetings and closing the club meetings as well. And if the president cannot do that duty, who comes next? VPE takes over. And if the VPE and president can't do it, that's right, Carrie, we're going to change the rules. VPM, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if the president can't make it to an executive committee meeting, the VPE will run the executive committee, and so on and so forth. Same thing with the membership meetings. And last thing that's not in the book, actually I looked, it's not there, but it's something that I think that all presidents who've been presidents before can attest to. One of the responsibilities for being a president is conflict resolution. Okay, so, you know, you have two members of your club who's having a disagreement, and you're the secretary. Do you care? I mean, you have to care. But are you going to be the one going, oh, I'll help you? You're like, where's the president? The president is the one who's responsible for dealing with any kind of issues in the club. And that's why vision is so important, because how you resolve conflict will be based very heavily on your vision of the club. So if you, in your vision, have a high value for teamwork, then when you resolve issues, it won't be about who's right and who's wrong, but how can you work as a team, for example. Okay, so even though it's not in the book, that's an unwritten rule. Sorry, presidents, that's going to be your hat for the next year. But one thing I can say is that conflict, being responsible for conflict resolution, it's such a growing opportunity. I have been president 4 times, and every single time I went in thinking, okay, this shouldn't be, I'm okay, I think I can handle everything. And I'm challenged through the year, difficult things, and I'm pulling my hair, and then by the end of the year I go, oh wow, you know, I'm much stronger, and now I look back and that wasn't too bad, and then I think I can do a lot more now. It's kind of like, does anybody play video games here? Okay, Mario Brothers, you're familiar with Pac-Man? Pac-Man? Donkey Kong? All right. I played Pac-Man when I was a kid, I'm just saying. All right, so Pac-Man, when you first start at that first level, it's okay, not too hard, right? You can do it. You get to level 2, and suddenly those little monsters, those little ghosts go much faster, and it takes a really long time to learn how to do level 2. And you work, and finally you get it. Okay, that's good. Then you go on to level 3, and that's even harder. And level 4, even harder. And that's kind of how the presidency can be sometimes. But the thing is, once you've mastered level 4, and you go back to level 1, you're like, that's a breeze. And that's growth. And that's like real life. You grow as you try harder and harder things, and then when you go back to level 1 seems easy now, even though when you did it the first time it wasn't even all that easy. So life is like a video game. So there you go.
Learned today.
And that's your takeaway. That's right. What did you learn? You go back to your officers. What did you learn at TLI? Well, Tammy told me life is like a video game. Don't tell the international president that. Okay? He already knows it. All right. So with all these incidentals that I explained to different officers, the reason why we do this as a team together, I've explained, even though you may be sergeant at arms and you may be president and you may be VPM, it's important that everyone knows what everyone else's job is, so that you can work together as a team. So that if somebody forgets to do something, then you can be there to help them remember. I'm very guilty of forgetting, and I thank my team for reminding me what I'm supposed to be doing sometimes. It's helpful to know that someone's got my back. Also, if somebody on your team's unable to do their job, then it's important for the other members to be able to pick up the slack here and there too. So it's important that you all know each other's job and can help each other get their job. And also it's important for you to feel like you're on a team and not just out there in the desert by yourself typing in numbers into the internet. That you're actually doing it because you're on a team together and feel as a team. And then I want to use that to segue into EC meetings, executive committee meetings. Because that is where you primarily will create your team, where you create your teamwork. Executive committee meetings are really important. They're important to get work done. They're important to unify on the vision of the club, and they're important for you to work together as a team. The most ideal situation is that you would meet once a month as an executive committee. For those of you who don't meet regularly or don't have an executive committee meeting, that may seem excessive. But I'm telling you that clubs that are really successful, they generally meet about once a month. And you think there's not a whole lot to do, but a lot of what you're doing is creating your team and working together on your vision. So you may go through some of the protocol of introducing yourself and explaining and giving your report, and that seems kind of boring. But each time you do that, you're working together as a team, and you're creating a solidarity between you. So it's important. So your executive committee meeting is where you get kind of the basic work done. It's also where you come up with new ideas and you discuss new ideas. It's also where you solve problems as a team together. So those of you who do not have regular executive committee meetings, I would recommend coming to your new EC this year and asking them, let's start doing executive committee meetings regularly. And for those of you who already do, great job, keep it up, and keep working together as a team, with a team. Okay, we actually are running great on time right now. We have until 9:50, so we have a half-hour break. What I'd like to do right now is a little activity. I'd like you to turn to your neighbor, maybe groups of 3, and just quickly tell them after you've heard all these things today, I'd like you to tell them what you'd like to do this year in your position. Maybe what you wrote down earlier, maybe you have a new idea of what you'd like to do this year in your position and what your goals are. So take about a minute or 2 to turn to your neighbor and tell them. Hi. Of paper that you got earlier today. Is there anybody who doesn't have one? Yeah, would you help pass out to people who don't have one? Would you help pass out to people who don't have one? Alright, so while you guys are getting those papers that you don't have yet, did you find that little activity helpful to actually voice outside of your own head your goals to your neighbor? And they're passing them around. Good. Great. Alright, we're going to move on to, I just came up with my comments. We're going to move on to the DCP and the moments of truth. Now, how many of you all heard of the DCP, right? You know what the DCP is, right? Yeah. Anybody not know what the DCP is? Anybody not at all, never heard of it? Not familiar? Okay. I just have an idea of who's familiar with it. Okay. Now, we're also looking at a sheet called the moments of truth. Has anyone not heard of the moments of truth? No. Right. Who has heard of the moments of truth but has absolutely no friggin' idea what it is? Yeah. That was me before I read the book. Alright, I read the book. So we're going to go over the DCP and the moments of truth. Now, how many of you have worked for a company, have owned a company, or know what a company is? Good. Companies generally have a bottom line, right? Their bottom line is how much money they want to make. The hard numbers. This is how much money we want to make this year. This is how many people we want to sell to. This is how many items, how many widgets we want to sell, et cetera, et cetera. That's the hard numbers. That's the DCP for us. Okay. But companies also have a vision or value system that they want to run their company on. Okay, so sure, you want to make $1 million this year, but do you want to break the backs of your people who work for you to do it? No, right? So companies have a softer side, which is the soft skills, the soft goals, which can't be numerated. They can't be measured with a number. But there's what makes a company a good company or a bad company is how they treat the customers, how they treat their employees, what kind of working conditions they have, what kind of materials they use when they work, what kind of benefits they have. These are the things that make working and relating with this company positive. So both companies have both a hard goals and soft goals. The soft goals are the moments of truth. Okay? So every club has the hard goals of the DCP and the soft goals of the moments of truth. So we're going to go over both of these a little bit. Not too much detail, and I actually gave away my copies if I can get those copies back. Thank you. I know it pretty well, but not so well that I don't need a copy. Where did the DCP ones end up? With the pile of DCP?
It's underneath.
It's underneath? Excellent. Oh, I see it. Great. Thank you. So let's go over the hard goals first because they're a little bit easier to enumerate. This DCP is a program designed by Toastmasters International to help your club be successful. Do you want to be part of a successful club? Yes! I'm not sure you really do. Do you want to be part of a successful club? Yes! Yes, and so does Toastmasters International. They want you to be part of a successful club. And Joe Larcella, who's not here today, her motto, one of her mottos is, every single member in District 52 deserves to be a member of a distinguished club. Deserves it. So your club goals here, distinguished or better. And this is the DCP. Now how do you achieve that? There's 10 points on the DCP. And they're divided up into 4 different sections. The first, and as we go along through here, by the way, thinking of your officer position, mark down notes of which points that you think you could help the club achieve. Make notes of, yes, I can help the club achieve this goal by doing this thing. Okay? So where can you be a part of the team of the DCP? All right, so the first section of the DCP is educational goals. Educational goals, they are the Competent Communicator Awards, their Competent Leader Awards, the Advanced Communicator Awards, the Advanced Leader Awards, DTM, etc. These goals are important because why? Why do we want to make sure that our club members are achieving these goals?
Because if club members are achieving their goals, they're more likely to stay with the program and keep the club moving forward.
Absolutely, sir. What's your name?
Rick.
Rick, great answer, Rick. Give Rick a hand for an awesome answer. Rick, by the way, you're standing right by the candy dish, so go ahead and have a whole bunch of candy there.
Can you repeat that?
Okay, so when members are achieving their goals, they're getting CCs, CLs, ACs, etc. They're more likely to stay with your club because your club is giving them what they are there for, what they need. They're meeting their goals. So as long as your club is providing for them what they're looking for, then they're going to stay. So if they're achieving their goals, that means your members are achieving what they're looking for. They'll stay. And that's true. The Competent Communicator Awards means that your new members, generally, your new members are achieving their goals. And the Advanced Awards means that your longtime members are still interested in your club, still interested in achieving their goals. So you want both of those. Now CCs can also be done by advanced members as well. I'm on my 3rd one. Linda, how many CCs have you done? 9. Anyone else top that who's done more than 9? Raise your hand. No? Is she the winner? There's a candy dish over there for the 9. You win candy. 9 CCs, but you know what? She's cheating because she was district governor, and district governor speaks about 5 times a week. So she got, and speaking of which, she brought her manual today, so she's going to get credit today. I forgot it. I still need to learn that. Bring your manual whenever you speak anywhere. So she's got a lot of CCs from being involved in the district. But that doesn't mean if you're an advanced Toastmaster in your club, you still can do CCs even if you're in the middle of working on the DTM. You can do as many as you want. Alethea, how many have you done?
How many what?
CCs.
I'm completing my 5th one.
5th one. See. So she's not even DTM yet. So she can still do CCs, but she's very close to DTM, by the way. All right, so educational goals. Now, one will say, well, that's the VPE's responsibility, right? Yes, but it's also who else's responsibility? Everybody. The mentor, the president, the treasurer, the person who's sitting next to them at the meeting. Everybody is responsible to help everybody out achieve your goal. And then, of course, yourself. You, personally, can help the club by achieving your own educational awards. I did 4 this year. Oh my gosh. I did 4. All right. Up next is membership. 4 new members, 4 new members. Do you have a question real quick?
Yeah, sorry, before you keep going.
Yeah.
Can you explain the Toastmaster year?
Oh, sure. Starts July 1st,
Okay.
ends June 30th.
So any of these goals that have been achieved up until the end of this month
Right.
do not count going forward. It's July 1st.
Right. Anything you do right now today will count towards this year and help the district and your club and the area division this year, and will count until June 30th. That's actually a good point, because if you want to get any of your educational done to help your club this year, they need to be in by June 30th, and the last couple days of June, the website gets totally bogged down with 1 million people all over the world, literally, trying to get their educationals in. So try to get them in a few days before, if you possibly can. Quick question, yes?
This training though applies to next year.
This training applies to next year, yes. We're trying to get you on the ground running, so July 1st, you'll already be ready. You'll have done this training, you'll have read the manual from front to back, right? Yes, yes. Okay. Yes. So when you start July 1st, you're ready to go. But yes, this training counts for July 1st of 2013 through June 30th of 2014. So membership, 4 new members, 4 new members. Why is it, other than you want people to come in and do their CCs, for example, why is it important for us to continually get new members? Anyone, just yell out. Attrition, Candy Dish over there. Attrition, definitely. No matter what you do, whether your club is the most fantastic, awesome, perfect, wonderful club in the universe, and you're the top club in the whole entire world, you will have attrition. People get jobs. People move. People run out of money. There are lots of different things that can happen that you'll lose people from your club. So having new members is important so that you will not slowly shrink into too small clubs to function. Okay. Also, having new members is really important to your club, because after you have the same members for year after year, it starts to get a little stale. A little stale. We all love each other very much. We do. But after we've been staring at each other for 3 years, we want a new face to talk to once in a while. They've already all heard my story about my grandma in Washington. Everybody's heard that one. I want to tell my story to somebody else who hasn't heard it yet. So we need to bring in new guests so that we have new blood in our club, and we are constantly renewing ourselves. We're constantly updating. Also, when we are not bringing in new members, we sometimes get lost in ourselves, and we don't see ourselves from the outside. And a guest comes in, they can give us a view that we maybe don't see. Okay, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we're doing everything's fine in our club. But a guest comes in and sees something totally different. Where's the program? Where's my membership packet? So then we realize, oh my gosh, we've dropped the ball because we're so used to each other. We haven't had to do that for a long time. So it's important to have new guests come in. Okay? Now, whose responsibility is it to bring in new guests? Yes, everybody, definitely. Now, VPM, VPPR work as a team on these goals particularly. However, it is everybody's responsibility to bring in new members. Everybody. And also, by the way, if you bring in new members, then the people you like are in your club. Just saying. The more people you like you bring into your club, the more you like your own club. It becomes a whole, Bill's club. My Bill, my friends. My friend. It's good. All right, next up is training. Yay, you're here. Yay, training. Yay. Happy days. Manual speeches only. Couple more. Membership strength. Let's see. Let's go down. Club programs are varied and exciting. That is going to be a subjective thing for you and your club and what you like to do. Varied and exciting can mean anything from having dress-up days to backwards meetings to simply just varying the theme. It depends on what you feel is exciting and fun for your club and what your group wants to do. But the more varied and exciting it is, although you want to be varied and exciting, you also want it to be organized and not chaotic. So even though this training is obviously very fun and exciting, obviously, it's also very well organized and within constraints so that we're not all running around chaotically, throwing off our ties and jumping on chairs.
Yeah.
Not that you do that in your Toastmasters club, right?
Yes.
You do that, okay. Let's Club is a part club. All right, last but not least, achievement recognition. Member achievements formally recognized with ceremony. Now, I know not every member cares about it, but you know what? Even though they may not care about getting that CC, they do care about being loved. Everyone wants to be loved. So having that recognition in front of the group, look it! Bill got a CC. Let's all congratulate him. Yay, Bill! Great job! And we all clap and we love him. And after the meeting's over, we come up and congratulate him. It's that feeling of camaraderie that we care about each other's success. We're not just asking Bill to get a CC for that point. We're not just saying, hey, Bill, you got your CC, good job, whatever. We're actually really caring about him. And we like him. And that's the feeling we want. And that's why we do it. Right? Not to make a big deal about the actual achievement itself, and that's a big deal, but also because we love that person and we want them to be happy and to grow. That's what we care about. All right, look at that, 950 on the nose. Look at that.